So tonight we're going to be listening to these two Massachusetts women who found their way from the soccer pitch to forge a relationship with the women in South Africa. I'd like to present Jean Duffy and Rita Wilkie.
So thank you, Lynn, and friends of the library for hosting us tonight. Thank you to Andrew from Aesop's Bagels for being here selling books. And thank you, Rita, for bringing out everybody here who wanted to be here. That's great. So during our time together tonight, I'm going to introduce myself and the story of the South African soccer grannies. And interspersed as the story unfolds, I'll do a reading from the book, and we'll see a segment of a documentary on these inspiring women. So it's going to be a multimedia event tonight. And then we'll wrap up with bring Rita up here, and we will discuss her soccer experiences and welcome your questions and discussions. So do we have any soccer players, any soccer fans here? Okay. Anyone with connections to South Africa? Visited or invested? Okay. Well, I'll get you on this one. Anyone with a milestone birthday ending in a 0 in the next 10 years, where you might ask yourself, wow, how did I get to this age? Okay, well, this is the book for you. So Soccer Grannies is a story of the power of sport. The power of sport to make a difference in the lives of the players, their physical health, their emotional well-being. Whatever the age, it's never too late to try something new. It's a story of the power of sport to build community at the local level, celebrating a win, and coming together and supporting each other through life's rocky periods. And lastly, it's the story of the power of sport to build community at the global level, across oceans, cultures, and race. I took up soccer in my early 40s. It was my first team sport ever. I was standing on the sidelines in Lexington, Massachusetts, watching my daughter Kate play. And I thought to myself, I'm already a runner. Surely I could run and chase a soccer ball. Fortunately, I found a group of women who were starting up in my town, and in no time I was hooked. I found it was a really fun way to exercise, and I forgot about that to-do list for an hour, so it was a real stress reliever. And now, 20 years later, I still play every chance I get, and those women are some of my best friends. I didn't know at the time, but just a few years after I started playing, a group of women in South Africa, women in their 40s to 80s, took to the playing field. These women have survived very challenging lives. They're of an age that many of them lived through the almost 50 years of apartheid and the poverty and unemployment that ensued. Some of them have lived with physical abuse, and they live with dangers of witchcraft accusations, to name a few. Yet they are strong and resilient women, and they exude this joy for life, whether they're singing, dancing, or chasing the soccer ball. I would come to meet those South African soccer grannies, and we would play soccer together on both sides of the Atlantic. Shortly after that amazing experience, a friend said, someone should write a book. That was amazing. And that planted a seed in the back of my brain. In my mid-50s, I put aside my full-time career as an engineer. And this engineer, who'd never written more than emails and technical reports, took a first creative writing class. 4 years later, working part-time on it, I had a first draft of the manuscript. And 8 years, 8 8 years from that first creative writing class, I am excited to hold a finished book in my hand, and they even put my name on it. So for my reading, I'm going to share a piece from the first chapter about what I first heard about these soccer-playing South African women. And given I'm jumping into the middle of the first chapter, let me set the stage. It's 2010. South Africa is hosting the FIFA World Cup, Men's World Cup, and it's the first time on African soil. And this South African team of grandmothers has found an international spotlight shining on them because they're the perfect human interest story associated with the World Cup. So reporters are flocking to Limpopo to hear their story. I'm in my office in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's very early in the morning, and I fire up my email and see a message from one of my fellow soccer players. The story was about a football club in rural South Africa made up entirely of grandmothers. I scrolled down to the embedded video and clicked play. On my computer screen appeared an older woman with a round brown face and several missing teeth. She was wearing a saffron shirt and a paisley bandana, and she was staring into the camera. "If I were to run with you, I would beat you." I didn't doubt her. She spoke with confidence and had the fierce eye of a competitor. "Even though I am 83 years old and I've had 6 strokes." What? "But soccer has really changed my life," she continued. "It's improved because of the football." Work temporarily forgotten, I brushed my papers aside, neatly placing my color-coded to-do list atop, and leaned forward to take in the scene as the camera zoomed out. The reporter explained that this grand dame with the swagger of a seasoned footballer was part of a team of 35 women in rural South Africa in their late 40s to early 80s. They were affectionately called the Soccer Grannies. I saw a dusty sun-baked field on which the women moved through their warm-up exercises. Shoulder to shoulder, they worked their way up the field. Shuffle, shuffle, kick to the right, hand clap. Shuffle, shuffle, kick to the left, hand clap. Loose-fitting shirts and below-the-knee skirts gave them freedom of movement. Beyond the dirt field, a few short trees and tufts of yellow scrubgrass grew. Another granny with close-cropped hair came into focus. "I like to play soccer because it helps us. We were sick, but now our cholesterol, our blood pressures have gone down. Even our doctors are amazed when we go for a checkup. God bless the person who came up with this glorious idea." And with that, the grannies were off and running. They chased the leather ball, kicking wildly and sending knee-high clouds of dust into the air. Caught up in the excitement, they paid no attention to the positions they were supposed to be playing. I knew this feeling well. I wasn't the only newbie on my Massachusetts team. Like the grannies, we were drawn to the ball like kids at a birthday party descending on a bludgeoned piñata. The camera followed a few heftier grannies who had slowed to catch their breath. Most of these women, I had to imagine, were not sitting all day in ergonomically designed desk chairs like mine. Yet here they were, after a full day of work, showing up for afternoon practice, tearing down the field on well-worn joints. Other grannies were skinny, nothing but bones and muscle racing toward the ball. Their dark skin accentuated the rainbow of colors of their headscarves and skirts. The ball was kicked again and again and finally found the net. Smiles blossomed across grannies' faces as they embraced nearby players. Cheers erupted on the sidelines from the cluster of fans huddled in the limited shade. One blew on a 3-foot-long plastic horn that sounded like an elephant trumpeting. The news reporter relayed that not everyone is supportive of the Grannies Football Club, and yet the women play on, despite resistance from community members. "Your place is at home, watching the grandchildren," they've been chided by the townsmen. The local churches frown upon women wearing trousers on or off the field, so at first the grannies played in skirts. Over time, as their confidence grew, and as their neighbors grew used to seeing them play, the Grannies pushed back on what had been traditionally deemed acceptable sports attire for women. Today they play in shorts, but even some of the Grannies' friends still disapprove. It's undignified, squeezing into short pants. A few of their own grandchildren are among the naysayers. Grandma, you can't play soccer, you're too old. But not everyone feels that way. The camera panned to a teenager on the sidelines, bursting with pride. I feel good when the Grannies play soccer, so they can be fit and strong, he says with a smile. The video ended, and I noticed the clock with a start. It was going on 7 a.m. I really should be getting to work, and yet I couldn't help myself. I went back and immediately replayed the video 2 more times. The outside observer might conclude that these ladies and I had little in common. Me, white, suburban, professional, them, black, rural grandmas. But I knew better. My own time on a cherished team told me of the camaraderie and support they must be getting from their own teammates. The feeling of confidence that grows from flubbing shot after shot on goal, and then one day there's a little more oomph behind your kick, directed with just a little more finesse, and suddenly your teammates are slapping you on the back. We weren't so different, these Grannies and I. Unable to ignore the towering pile of paperwork any longer, I grudgingly turned my attention away from the Grannies. But they had unpacked their bags and had taken up residence in my brain. That day, as I scrolled through endless spreadsheets, I couldn't have imagined that in fewer than 6 months, the 7,875 miles would be bridged between my home in Lexington, Massachusetts, and the Grannies in Nakoa, Nicole, and Popo, and I would be joining them on the field. So shortly after seeing that news report, I turned to the internet and found more footage of the team. And I learned that the group was founded by a woman named Becca Mitsanwisi, a cancer survivor and a radio talk show host. I found her email address at the radio station and invited these soccer grannies to come to Massachusetts and play in an adult soccer tournament. Becca said right away, "We will come, my sister, we will come." But there were hurdles. Passports to be obtained. Some of these women had never been educated, didn't know how to write. Visas, we had to raise $40,000 at a time before GoFundMe. And then we had to get flights when all the seats were full with people coming back from the World Cup to the United States. So there was hurdle after hurdle, but we never gave up trying, and they came. So it was quite the experience hosting them, from their arrival at the airport to their departure a week later. During the tournament, they didn't win any games. In fact, we almost had to help them to score goals. But after every game, they were hugging everyone and coming off the field, singing and dancing like they'd won the World Cup. And we got glimpses into what this trip meant to them. At one point, the Grannies were on the field, playing their hearts out, and one Granny, Lizzie, ran off the field, plopped down right in front of where Becca was sitting and put her head in Becca's lap, and she was sobbing. And I said to Beatrice, a Granny who spoke wonderful English and with a wonderful accent, and I said, "Is Lizzie all right? Did she get hurt?" And Beatrice replied, "She's fine. Those are tears of happiness. She's so grateful to Becca for bringing soccer to her and for this opportunity to come to America." And then Beatrice continued. She said, "Lizzie had 5 adult children die of AIDS. 5 is a lot," she said. And I thought to myself, oh my God, 1 is a lot. Losing child after child, how do you even take one step forward? I just can't imagine the resiliency required. Becca invited us to come to South Africa the following year, and that was an invitation we would not miss out on. In 2011, five of us expressors and assorted family members went to South Africa, and we were treated again to an amazing experience. On the soccer field, it doesn't matter that you don't speak the same language. We played, had a good time running up the field, setting up plays. I ate my first caterpillar. It's technically called a mopani worm. Very crunchy on the outside, but kind of gooey in the inside. I decided it was an acquired taste, which I had not yet acquired. And one day, Becca took us to a small village, a couple hours north of where the soccer Grannies played, which was very eye-opening. No running water, no electricity, and Becca's been doing community work there, including founding a women's team there. So I wish I could open the door and usher in the soccer Grannies, and you could meet all them. They would be singing and dancing and parading around the room, and a smile would come across your face. At least that's what happens to me. That's the magic of the soccer Grannies for me. But the next best thing is I'm going to show you just a 4-minute snippet from a documentary that was made in 2017 by a South African film artist, and it won a number of awards. So you'll get a chance to see these women. So that's just a snippet. It's a 20-minute documentary. You can find it on the internet. It's on my link to it on my website, or you can search Alive and Kicking. It goes into some of the women and how they feel soccer has helped them. And it's quite good. So Becca Nitsanwisi is the heroine of this story. She's a community activist who's won many awards, including one that the Order of the Baobab presented by the President of South Africa. She's known as the Mother Teresa of Limpopo. And even as a young girl, she was eager to help. She just had this giving heart. She saw these young kids who were walking to school a long, long way with no shoes, and the whole school day, then they would walk home and they had nothing to eat. And so she went into the cupboard at home and brought some food to them. But beyond establishing a football team, she has funded education for young adults, help them find jobs. She has helped rally together labor and resources to build houses for people who had none. And when the AIDS epidemic hit South Africa very hard, as you heard in Lizzie's story, women lost their adult children to disease and found themselves with like 8, 10, 12 grandchildren that they now had to feed and clothe and house. So most recently during the pandemic, with unemployment rising, more people were hungry, and Becca sent me pictures delivering huge bags of cornmeal to families. For many years, Becca had a talk show on the national radio, and people would call in and explain that they had a relative who needed a wheelchair, or maybe they had a relative who had died and their body was at the funeral home, but they didn't have the money to pay to do a proper funeral, and Becca would coordinate and bring together the resources to help them. Then at 35, Becca herself was diagnosed with colon cancer, and while she was at the hospital undergoing the treatment, Becca being Becca, instead of looking inward at her own suffering, she looked around and saw all these older women there with various diseases, heart disease, diabetes, mobility, and that's when she said, I need to get these women exercising. It will be a stress reliever for them, and they'll improve their health. So she's started this exercise program, and like you saw in the documentary, kind of chance the ball rolls in front of them, and they had a ball. And so even though there was resistance, townsfolk telling them they belong belonged at home, they were having too much fun. They wouldn't stop, for all the same reasons I love soccer. But even more so, they were seeing very real health benefits. And their to-do list is much more weighty than mine. And they pray together at every practice, and if they can, they give money towards a team bank account. And then when they hit on hard times, they'll help out one of their team members. So it's a real community that supports each other. So it's now been 15 years since Becca started that first team, and she's inspired over 200 teams across South Africa to have founded now. I mean, when you think there's 20, 30, 40 women on each of those teams, that's a lot of healthier, more confident, empowered women with that additional community of support. So I think it's just amazing what she's done. But one of the things I've really learned to admire about Becca since I've been working with her over the last 13 years is how she states her dreams with conviction. And I think that's a really powerful lesson. When she said, "We will come to America," my sister, "we will come," there was no doubt. And I think it drives the power of our accomplishments. In 2023, and this is beyond, the book was already at the publisher, so it was beyond the pages of the book. In 2023, another of Becca's dreams was realized. A dream that she expressed in 2010 when she was here. She said, "Before I die, I want to host a Grannies World Cup. Teams from around the world to come." And in March, the Grannies International Football Tournament was held in Limpopo, South Africa. 16 teams attended from across Africa, US, and Europe. And Rita and I were a part of 3 teams of women from the Boston area. 50 women in our 50s, 60s, and 70s went. Linda was there. And it was, we didn't know, Becca accomplishes so much with very limited resources. So we really didn't know what she would be able to what this tournament would be like. But we said, even if it's just a scrimmage with the Grannies, it will be amazing. But she totally delivered an amazing tournament. The first day, there was a parade of all the teams through the town behind their flags, and people had come from all villages around who were eager to, give us high fives and have their pictures taken with us. And when we walked into the stadium, paraded into the stadium, it was packed with thousands of people. And I started playing soccer in my 40s, right? And my first team sport ever. So I had never played in front of 5 people, let alone a stadium where people are on their feet singing and dancing at every goal. It was just an amazing experience. And before each game, we would line up in the stadium tunnel behind the goalie, and there was a team of girls in their uniforms, and they would hold our hands, escort us out onto the field, put our hands on our hearts, sing the national anthem of each country. And it was just a marvelous gathering of women who have this, shared passion and showing the world the importance of fitness as we age. And it really struck me, even thinking about it after we were back in the US, that how far Becca and the Grannies have come from, being ridiculed and told you should be home not playing soccer, to now hosting this international event and bringing all this not insignificant economic benefit to the area. And those women that we met in 2010 who came to America, at this time in 2023, they were, I think they still play regularly, but they were in the stands cheering, and they fielded against us the young 50s and 60-year-olds. And so that first team has really paved the way for this next generation to play. So now it's high time we invite Rita, the Milford resident, up to tell her story, because we have a celebrity in our midst. 2010 that played with the soccer grannies when they came to the United States. So she's in that picture. And then she came in 2023, this year, and played again in South Africa. And when Rita scored her first goal during this March tournament this year, there was an announcer calling the play-by-plays, and he said, "This is Rita Wilkie," you know, and gave her age and said, you know, she's the oldest one to have scored a goal. And all the U.S. team members are going, "Rita, Rita." So when this woman scored her second goal of the tournament, everyone was yelling, "Rita, Rita." She was a celebrity. The Veterans Cup that the soccer grannies came and played in has been going on every year. It moves from state to state in the United States. It's the largest adult amateur soccer tournament there is. And it's now been renamed to Soccer Fest. And the year before last, Rita's over 70 team won. And that's her holding up the plate there. And was interviewed on WBZ for that accomplishment. And this year, her team again won the over 70s division. And this is them holding up their championship plate there. And she was on the Today Show being interviewed. And I think it's a little hard to tell, but in there, those are not just soccer players, those are Today Show interviewers there. Yeah, so I want to ask you, Rita, were you always athletic, even as a girl and a teenager?
Well, we didn't have anything, you know, I'm of that age that there was nothing for girls. So, I didn't start till I was 36.
Okay.
And then it was phenomenal, because Dave and I played tennis together. And then somebody said, "Come and try this soccer, you're gonna love it." And I went home and I said to Dave, "I'm not playing tennis anymore."
You lost your tennis buddy.
Lost it. About 17 years later, I went back to it. So now I can do both. What's interesting about this, us winning the last 2 years, the younger ones are saying, "I can't wait till I get 70 so that I can win a championship."
How many, there's a different team. They keep adding more age groups, right?
Right. Yeah, it's from, what is it, 40 up to over 70, and now they're thinking about the over 75.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because I think in 2010, it was only up to over 60 or over
Right.
65.
yeah.
So do you have memories from that first 2010 game with the soccer grannies, or?
It was amazing. They were so much fun. They were like singing and dancing and, what is this? You know? And they didn't play well, but it was a really good time.
Yeah.
They were very excited, very inspirational.
Yeah. And how about this year?
Oh, this trip was phenomenal. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, they were so wonderful. Of course, you know, making a star didn't hurt either. It was great.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go. I don't want to be on your camera.
So do you mind sharing your age with the group? I mean, I assume you get
Oh,
proud.
79.
79, yeah.
I'll be 80 in March.
80 in March, awesome.
So I'll have to go to the next round. I'll still be the oldest.
Yeah. Yeah, Becca's talking about 2025 for the next tournament. Yeah. So do you have any words of wisdom, secrets to your healthy aging and winning lots of trophies?
Just keep plugging, just, you know, it's hard to explain to people who aren't active how much better you feel, your mental state, your physical state. It just feels so good to be out there,
Yeah.
and the camaraderie. Awesome.
Yeah.
And besides, I'm not artsy craftsy or cook, or I don't have any skills, so, but I can get up to cook.
Yeah.
So,
So you have questions for Rita or me, or? Sure.
Sorry, I'm just gonna challenge that. So when you say you don't have any skills,
Yeah.
does that imply soccer doesn't take any skills, or tennis
No,
doesn't?
that had nothing to do with it. I don't have any other stuff like knitting or, all the girly stuff. I got nothing.
Oh,
So sports are good, and soccer is just so much fun. And you don't have to be good, you just go up and, you don't even have to get in the play, just go back and forth, and there's your exercise. It's just so much fun. And they like to party, so it's.
Yeah, I play lots of scrimmages, so it's just pick-up game, everybody's just there
Nobody keeps
for
score.
the fun of it, yeah, and keep score.
That's, the guys can't understand that. How can you come home and not know what the score is? Because we don't keep score. Well, why do you do it? Right?
Right.
Yeah, my husband asked me, every time I come home, did you get any goals? Who, or did you win? I was like, he knows, I won't have nothing to say. I'll say if I got a goal or not,
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question. So, after you would play these matches for the tournament, did you get to sit with the other soccer grannies and talk with them and find out about their lifestyle and what their lives were like? And
Oh, yeah, we went to their villages and, you know, yeah, we got together. Very, very fun.
and what was their, can you describe their villages and what it was like and?
Well, they're a lot poorer than we are.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty basic living over there,
Mhm.
you know.
And were they curious about your life here in the United States?
Well, they were, but they didn't say too much. I think there was a language
Yeah,
barrier
for the
too.
most part, yeah, a lot of the other teams didn't speak English too much, yeah. But some did.
But
kids were good.
communication was soccer.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
yeah, and just the smiles and pictures together and,
Mhm.
yeah, very
Yeah.
basic.
Oh, yeah.
Something about the second half of the trip. Safari.
Oh, well, we're not here for that. Sure, well, the other half of the trip was going on safari for 3 days, so it was perfect, perfect.
I don't know why the animals don't attack you, like, it's just hard to sit still in these open jeeps with a lion walking by, you know?
I think they're used to people.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
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 The
Yeah.
weather was perfect.
What's that?
The
The
weather
weather was perfect.
Oh, it was. I thought I was gonna come home from Africa without a tan. It wasn't hot. Just one day was really, really hot, but.
Got some questions over here.
Rita, I'd love to hear when they wanted you to go up and meet the president in the stands.
Oh.
Tell that story, please.
Well, I really didn't even think he was the real president, you know, they said, you need to come up and meet the president, and it's like, yeah, sure. So we went over, and there was this guy who was the president, I think. Shook hands and said congratulations, and so glad you're here, very nice. So, yeah.
And then the people in the crowd went,
Yeah, yes, they did.
And tell them how you had to be escorted out of the stadium.
Oh, they're so crazy with their phones, they wanna take selfies, and that's all they wanna do is, can we do a selfie? Sure. So then the game would be over, and they'd just empty out of the stands and come down and, you know, selfie, and so after a while, you know, people said, it's time to go, and selfie, and then security had to come over and escort me out of the stadium. So we got outside of the stadium by the bus, and they both turned to me and said, can we have a selfie? Yeah, it was a pretty awesome trip. Pretty wonderful people.
Yeah, I felt like I had more pictures taken and more hugs than the rest of my life. all
Yeah,
put
because I'm
together.
not a huggy, kissy person, but boy.
So Rita, in all of your years of playing soccer, is there any particular game or particular memory that stands out?
It's a lot of years. Oh boy, that's a tough one. I don't know, I've just enjoyed all of them. They got better and better and more fun and more fun. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
You have any favorite memories from the trip, Linda?
Oh, well, I just thought I was a celebrity when we all went there because I never wanted to take our pictures, but I felt like I was at like a revolution game going on to the field. But I was happy that I was on Rita's team. That's when I got to play with her.
Oh, dear. We've been playing for years, just against each other.
Right, exactly. But I was playing actually with you this time.
That's all you got? She wants to escape. Unless you have more questions.
I have a question. How long are you gonna keep playing soccer?
I guess as long as they'll have me.
Are you going to go to the next one? 2025?
Oh, I'll definitely be the oldest one in that one.
Yeah. Do we know where it's going to be?
Becca wants to host it in South Africa. She thinks it'll be too much for one of the other countries.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it'll be the same place again?
That's the plan, yeah.
Maybe you can come this time.
Who were the other European countries that came?
France was the European.
And then the African countries?
Zimbabwe,
Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Zambia,
yeah.
and South Africa had 6 or 7 teams. They actually had kind of playoffs, and you had to decide which South African teams got to come.
Fun, fun.
Yeah. After,
Never forget it. Never forget it, ever, ever.
after the soccer grannies came to the United States, a few of them got invited to Brazil when the World Cup was there, and to Russia when the World Cup was there. And then they put together a whole team and went when the Women's World Cup was in France. And that's how they met, made the connection with this French team who came to South Africa. And they played the French team and beat them 10-0.
Oh, wow, really?
So,
Hey.
yeah, the French
Yeah.
were just starting.
Huh.
I just wanted to address, I think you asked about the villages. Someone asked about visiting the villages. Well, I had gone to the village. Were you with us, Rita, when we went to the villages? And we brought, I guess, the tradition is you have to get permission by the chief to go and visit their village. And then when we go to visit, we have to bring a gift. So we actually, that's where we brought a lot of food, wheat and different things so they can make bread and whatnot. So then we visited this one family, and it was almost kind of like a compound, but they had like outdoor kitchen. That's how they cook, is like outdoors with the fire and everything. And then they have, like almost like, I don't know how it's made, but smaller like housing. And that's
Just
how it
one
was,
room.
like one room, beds and stuff like that. So it's very interesting on how they
They
lived
had
there.
like a community kitchen.
A community kitchen, yeah.
Not my lifestyle, but interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So while you're thinking, if you have any more questions, so I'm donating my book proceeds to Becca and Weasley Foundation, so it's the Soccer Grannies. And I'm actively seeking out book clubs, groups who are reading the Soccer Grannies. I'd be happy to come and talk about it, or if you know other groups who might want to hear the story, let me know. And if you've been inspired by the work of Becca, a group of us in the United States set up a GoFundMe to score one for the South African Soccer Grannies. And any donation that you give goes directly to her, so it's kind of no middlewoman.
That's right.
questions? Anybody want to come play soccer with us?
We have
We're
a,
always recruited.
we have a walking soccer that is over for now, but in the spring, if anybody wants to, it's walking, so it's pretty tame, and it kind of gives you a feel for the game.
That's big in England, I think. This line.
Yeah, but it's kind of, it's a nice introduction.
And then comes the wheelchair soccer.
Well, this is for people that have never played,
Yeah,
so.
And you just literally walk? There's
it's
just no
fast
line?
walking.
Yes.
It's,
You have to have one foot on the ground all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's exhausting.
Yeah.